Hey there, guys. Out in the boat, rigging some rods up, um, and just figured I'd show you a little bit of what I'm doing. Getting out fishing a little bit tomorrow, and the lake that I'm fishing at, it's a fun lake to fish. It's a very deep, clear water lake, um, but it has just a couple areas that are completely the opposite. It's got these couple little, they're, I guess inlets would probably be the right term for it. Both of them are inlets. They're very shallow. They're muddy bottom and dark. They warm up a lot faster than the main lake. I was there, gosh, it's got to be 3-4 weeks ago. The main lake was 42 degrees. These arms were 50, I don't know, 51, something like that, I think they were. And what a massive difference here in Maine. That makes a big difference of that many degrees. You know, when one fish is moving pretty well and the other is still very much in a winter pattern, very sluggish. I enjoy fishing the lake, and I think I'm going to go there tomorrow. There's quite a bit of wind. The main lake will probably be pretty windy. I might be able to get in and around some areas that aren't, but then I will probably go up into these, you know, the creek that's shallow and muddy. I always like to have, you know, options prepared. I will probably do, you know, if I get up in that creek, you know, run a chatterbait. I love the jackhammer. I really can't throw anything else at this point, but I'll run a chatterbait, maybe a spinnerbait. I will definitely flip a creature bait and a jig. I got on a real good creature bait and jig bite the last time up as the fish were moving up into those creek arms, the shallow, muddy, much warmer creek arms. That was terrific. Maybe I'm trying to think what else. I would still throw a jerk bait up in there because it's not too weedy yet, but that's not quite as much. It'll be out in the clear water that I'll fish a jerk bait more. I love fishing a jerk bait this time of year. My friend calls it the Andrew bait, and I have a hard time letting it go out of my hand. And there are a few that are really go-tos for me. And I figured I might as well show those to you. I'll show you, you know, I tie a Palomar knot, very simple. I got one here that I do need to rig up, and I guess I'll show you the knot. Most of you probably know this knot, but I love it. It's so simple, it's strong. Again, probably not the strongest knot out there, but it's so simple, and it is very strong. And it's almost impossible to mess up, and you can do it, you know, in no time, which sometimes if you're in a tournament or even fun fishing, you really want to get back in there. Time matters. So I'll show you here, and then I'll show you the jerk baits that I really prefer. Yeah, hope it helps you there. So I'm gonna take the line, go right in, you know, through the spot, you know, in some cases the eye. In this case, it's got a split ring in front of it. If you can see that all right. And I'm gonna go right through. I'm going to flip it around and go back through. So at this point, we've got a loop, and if I took my finger out, the bait would just, I mean, it would just come right off, but it would be a loop right in there. And I guess you could fold the line over and stick the loop in, but I typically, on smaller baits like this, I'm going to put one end in and then, you know, turn it around and put the line back through the same way it came in, just, well, the opposite way, I guess. So we've just got the double lines doubled up, the loop right here, and we're just going to tie a regular old granny knot at this point. So I'm going to take it, just a granny knot, flip it around, and now this loop that I've created is going back through. So there's kind of your granny knot. If you cinched it down, it would look like a granny knot, and I didn't really give myself quite enough, but now we got to stick the bait through that loop, and I really didn't give myself enough room. Normally I give myself just a little bit more, so it's a little easier, but we're gonna do it this way. You're gonna pull it up. So you've stuck the bait through, you've kind of got your granny knot. You always wet the line. It prevents it from burning, and it slides a little bit better as well. Now you just pull it down and pull it tight. And I'm pulling both lines together, and then I'll usually take my main line and just make sure it's kind of snug. Every once in a while I'll have one just give a little bit, and I want it to give now. If it's going to, I want it to give now before I cut the tag end off. Again, you want to make sure it's wet. Again, it slides better, but it also prevents it from burning the line. When you're pulling a knot down, you don't realize that knot there's a lot of friction going in there, and it gets very hot, and it'll burn the line and weaken it, especially on a fluorocarbon or a mono. But even a braid, it's not the best thing for it. And then just if you get it wet, it could slip, and you want it, any slippage you want to happen now before you get it in the fish's mouth. And then I'm just going to cut the tag off. Probably I'm going to leave about 1/4 of an inch, something like that, if you can see that. Something like that, a little shorter wouldn't hurt, but you know, I'm not worried. If the fish is seeing that, well, gosh, why isn't he seeing the rest of my line here? You know, if he's so worried about that tag end, geez, I think he's going to worry about the rest of the line. So we've already lost that fish if he's that cautious. So I don't see it. I'm not going to split hairs on just how short I can get my tag end. I'm going to leave a little bit. So this is one of my favorites. This is the, gosh, I think it's the Megabass. Yeah, that's what it is. It's the Megabass Vision 110. Not the cheapest bait out there, but boy, it works. This is just your standard bill. I do use the +1. I haven't used the +2 very much. That's a very deep diving bait. But I use, you know, this one and the +1 a lot. Earlier in the season, I'm using the +1 more because the fish are deeper. As they're moving up, I'm finding them to be in that 8 probably to 2 feet of water. So, you know, you're going to want a bait that runs a little shallower. And a fish will, you don't have to get this bait right to the fish. I guess that's probably important to note. You want it over their head, but if it's really cold, you want it very close. If it's warmer, they'll come to get it. And the farther they come to get it, the more they're committed to it. So that's not a bad thing either. If they will come get it, they're usually more committed the farther they come. Now, if it's really cold, they're just not going to come very far, and you're going to need to get that bait a lot closer. But if it's warmer water, you can move it faster, and they'll commit farther. And the farther they come for it, I mean, they're committed. So if they will come for it, that's great. But sometimes they won't. But so this is the Megabass Vision 110. Love this bait. The other day, I mean, this is the only one that I could catch them on. And that's the other odd thing. Some days they'll chase any jerk bait. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's a jerk bait. Some days it matters what it is. And yesterday, 2 days ago, I was out on the water, and I mean, this is the only thing I could get them to eat. I could not get them to eat anything else. I like other baits, and I'll show you a couple other jerk baits that I use. I love the, I don't know what I did there, but I got that line all tangled up here. There we go. Okay, I had it wrapped around the fish finder. So I'm going to set that off to the side. I love, this is my probably second favorite, or maybe even more so. This is the Jackal re-range. It's the smaller size. There are 2 sizes. This is the Jackal, and I don't know if you can see that, but that, I mean, that bait has been eaten. There's teeth marks all on it, hook marks on it, and it just keeps catching them. I typically change out the hooks. You saw on that one, I changed out the hooks. This one, I've changed out the hooks. I really like the Aaron Martin's finesse treble hooks. I find they snap on me a little bit. So if you are, I mean, absolutely wailing on these fish and not being gentle with them, I find the hooks will snap on me. They don't bend out as much, but they just snap right off. I had one do it the other day, but luckily I had multiple hooks in him. So one snapped off, but I still caught that fish, and then I swapped out that treble. But I find these to be very sharp. I mean, needle point sharp, which is what you want in a jerkbait. And they're light enough that they don't mess up the action. This is a suspending jerkbait, and if they're too heavy, obviously the bait's going to sink, which you don't want, and if they're too light, it's going to float. So you want to match the size of the hook to the size of the bait, and you can test that out in the water. I'll usually, with the standard hooks on, I'll work it down a little bit and then just watch it. If it's, floats perfectly okay. I want to match those hooks, you know, as closely as I can. I'll put them on, work the bait. Okay, that's perfect. Or nope, it's rising, so I need to upsize my hooks, or maybe just one or two of them. Maybe you want them balanced, so you put two larger ones on the end and a little smaller one in the middle if you needed to, or whatever you have to do, but you want it to be balanced, and then you want it to suspend properly. These are size 4 for the Jackal re-range. The regular size, I use size 4. And then on the Vision 110, the regular or the plus, you know, I guess any of them, I use, this is a size 4. No, size 5, I'm sorry. This is a 4. The Jackal re-range is a 4. This is a size 5. And then these are probably my 2 favorite jerkbaits of all time. I do use others. I've got a Lucky Craft. I think it's a Lucky Craft Craft Flash Pointer 100. This is a teeny little bait and teeny little trebles. I'll use a size 6 Aaron Martens. I haven't swapped these ones out yet, but I will. And they're teeny. I don't fish this bait a lot, but I have fished it a lot in, so I kind of contradicted myself. I don't fish it a lot. It's not the one that I go to first, but in shallow water I go to it first, I guess I should say. So as the fish move really, really shallow, it dives a little shallower, and boy, you know, when you need a jerkbait to go shallow, this one is a terrific one, and it still casts pretty well. If you've got gear, you know, sort of a lighter bait caster, it casts pretty well. So you can still work it on a jerkbait, and I caught a bunch of fish earlier. They were on a super shallow flat, and every once in a while I'd still get in the weeds with it, but I didn't work it down as hard. I worked it more when I'm working the rod sideways, so it's not diving quite as hard, and I was only in a couple feet of water, and man, I was just catching them with that. And I was watching others, you know, saw me catching them and kind of came in to see what I was doing. We've all done that, so no judgment, but they were fishing spinner baits because that's what they could fish in that type of shallow water. It just wasn't happening. I mean, I got on a school of them, and they came close enough in to fish the same school I was on, and they didn't catch a single fish, and I don't know, I caught 15 or something, and then moved on and just figured at that point they kept kind of crowding me, so I said I'll let them have it. They worked right through it, didn't catch a fish. I went back and caught some more fish after they left. I let them get quite a ways away. I didn't want to crowd them. I figured if they want it that bad, it's all theirs. But we've all done that. We're all guilty, so no judgment. And then this is, I have fished the Jackal re-range, the larger size. I don't fish it a lot, but let's say I've caught a lot of fish, and there's some decent ones in the lake, and I really want to keep that bait in front of the bigger fish. I'm going to upsize.